In 2018, Marvel Comics would use an ongoing Thanos series to introduce a new incarnation of the Ghost Rider from a parallel universe. However, this would not be a multiversal Johnny Blaze, Danny Ketch, or even Robbie Reyes. Rather, it would be Frank Castle, aka the Punisher.
In this universe, Thanos had managed to conquer Earth and kill all the heroes, with one of the last fighters being the Punisher. Frank Castle's tenacity in his dying fight so impressed the demon Mephisto that he offered to graft the Angel of Vengeance Zarathos onto Castle's soul. Soon, a new Ghost Rider rode the Earth looking for Thanos in revenge. Unfortunately, Thanos had left the planet a long time ago, so he was just wandering a barren wasteland. Then, however, a new wrinkle appeared in the form of Galactus, Devourer of Worlds, who was upset that Thanos had destroyed so many planets that he could no longer feed upon. So, Frank Castle, the Ghost Rider, also became a Herald of Galactus.
About a year or so later, an event storyline called Infinity would see Odin of Asgard travel to this Earth in order to draft the Cosmic Ghost Rider into traveling back in time to hopefully neutralize the threat of Thanos.
However, the writer didn't kill Thanos, but rather adopted the young Titan to raise him right. Unfortunately, it didn't work, and Thanos once more became a tyrannical despot, so the writer was forced to restore the timeline, and in the process wound up stranding himself in the mainline Marvel Universe, otherwise known as Universe 616. Then, after an event story called Infinity Wars, when Thanos' former followers attempted to resurrect the Titan before his death, the Cosmic Ghost Rider teamed up with a resistance movement led by Thanos' brother Star Fox.
From there, Frank Castle, the Cosmic Ghost Rider, would resume his war on those who prey on the innocent throughout the stars. This would result in a 5-issue miniseries, which is what we're covering today. This is Revenge of the Cosmic Ghost Rider.
Frank Castle is taken prisoner by the Shi'ar Empire, who believe they just got the normal everyday Punisher. Of course, though, this is really the Cosmic Ghost Rider who's been cutting a bloody swath through various empires of the galaxy, all of whom are basically guilty of unpunished war crimes. The guards throw Frank Castle into a cell with the siblings of many of his victims, leading to Frank getting tossed around, which is just a way to lull them into a false sense of calm so he can use his powers to heal and fight back. Castle begins mowing his way through his cellmates, forcing the guards to unleash a shadow monster. However, that itself is stopped by a quick penance stare.
The penance stare is a power used by the Ghost Rider to allow an individual to experience all the evil and pain they've inflicted on others throughout their life. The power works twofold in that the individual not only experiences the physical pain of what they've caused, but also their own emotional guilt gets brought to the surface. Ironically enough, one of the few individuals who's actually immune to the penance stare is Frank Castle, who carries no guilt over his actions.
The Cosmic Ghost Rider causes such a havoc that the Shi'ar have no other option but to activate the self-destruct on their ship. Months later, a group of space pirates find the Rider's skull floating amongst the wreckage that they're salvaging. One of the pirates intends to use the skull to taunt their human co-worker, a young girl named Cammy. However, when Cammy slips away for a shower, the Rider is able to reconstitute himself and begins laying waste to the crew. Cammy emerges from the shower and goes to the captain on the bridge, only to find a smoldering corpse and the Rider ready with a penance stare. However, the Rider soon finds out something rather surprising. Cammy is in fact innocent and thus not affected by the penance stare.
This is Cammy Benally, who at the age of 10 met Drax the Destroyer and eventually became his traveling partner throughout the stars. They participated in many major storylines in the Marvel Cosmic setting, most notably the crossover event Annihilation, but would break up soon after the new incarnation of the Guardians of the Galaxy was founded. Cammy would eventually return to Earth in a controversial series called Avengers Arena that saw many teenage characters from the Marvel Universe in a kill-all scenario similar to the popular Hunger Royale franchise. Or was that the Battle Games? Anyway, after experiencing that and surviving, Cammy would return to the stars, and to the best of my knowledge, she is not 18 years old, so the fact that we have a shower scene involving this character is a tiny bit uncomfortable.
Cammy points out that the pirates she's been working with are in the employ of an individual known as the Cosmic King, a galactic crime boss who fancies himself trying to become the next Thanos. The King has been surveilling the ship the entire time, so he knows exactly what's been going on. So with that in mind, he decides to head to Vegas to haggle with Mephisto for Frank Castle's soul.
Yes, in addition to being the ruler of a section of hell, Mephisto also runs a demonic-powered hotel out of Las Vegas. Also, we wind up getting a brief vignette that sees the Cosmic Ghost Rider encounter his mainline Marvel Universe, Earth 616 counterpart in Frank Castle, the Punisher. The Punisher winds up taking the Rider to task for traveling back in time to possibly take out Thanos, when he could have easily just traveled back in time and killed the people who killed his wife and kids, and thus prevented the Punisher from ever coming into existence. It's a very nice little scene. It's kind of cool, but unfortunately it really doesn't have any impact on the rest of the story, so that's kind of why we're just covering it here.
A deal is soon made, and the Cosmic King returns to his headquarters, where he's informed of more of the havoc being wrought by the Ghost Rider, who's brought Cammy along for the ride, but won't actually allow her to participate in anything in order to keep her clean. Eventually, the Rider just winds up chaining Cammy to a space cycle during the next few battles, as Frank continues taunting the Cosmic King via his surveillance cameras. The Rider won't even allow Cammy to help him fight off attackers when the two stop off at a small space diner for lunch. Finally, the two arrive at the planet Squall, home of the Jemani Empire, who control the opening to a small wormhole for trading routes. The Cosmic King has long desired control of this wormhole and has gone so far as to set up a blockade around the planet in order to acquire what he wants.
Hopefully they can be a bit more successful than the last two people who were sent out to try to stop a planetary blockade.
Uh-oh.
Once more, Frank stops Cammy from killing the appointed leader of the blockade as the Cosmic King arrives and reveals his true form to both his enemies. Before Frank can attack, the Cosmic King grabs Cammy and flings her into the wormhole, where she is being pulled in all directions. The sight of this causes Frank to snap and flash back to the mob shootout that killed his family, and he winds up attacking the Cosmic King in a fight that winds up being so powerful that it devastates all life on Squall. However, the two individuals fighting barely notice as they're busy taunting each other, with the King pointing out that no matter how much punishment the Rider doles out, crime will never truly go away. However, Frank Castle has always known that his war is futile, but he's never really fought it for other people, only for himself. Finally, the Cosmic Ghost Rider blasts the Cosmic King and prepares to deliver the killing blow when the Crime Lord finally offers Frank's original soul back to him. Basically, getting the soul back means that Frank would be mortal, and thus, while he would be able to resume punishing the wicked, eventually he would die, and thus his war could truly end. Frank finally accepts the offer, and his humanity winds up being restored. As for Cammy, she manages to reach the end of the wormhole, mostly intact, finding herself in an alien children's playroom, where she smashed their Lego version of Ego the Living Planet. The two youths are eager to play with their new pet, only for all the commotion to bring the attention of their father, the Cosmic King. Seeing an opportunity to finally kill the Cosmic King, Cammy stows away under a dining cart and overhears the King addressing his subordinates about taking over and replacing Thanos, causing Cammy to realize that she somehow traveled back into the past. All of this is suddenly interrupted by the arrival of a large demonic parasite crashing into the King's headquarters and attacking his kids. Cammy moves to protect the children by blasting the creature with her gun, only for one of its tendrils to make contact with her and allowing her to realize that this is the parasite that results in the powered-up Cosmic King that she and Frank were fighting earlier. The Cosmic King soon arrives to defend his kids, earning Cammy's respects as she pulls the kids to safety. However, the parasite soon overwhelms and possesses him.
Okay, he's got some scruples, but he's still the leader of an organized crime ring, so I don't think we should really push him into the realm of nobility just yet.
Cammy acquires a jetpack and takes off back into the wormholes. She arrives on the remains of Squall to find that Frank still killed the Cosmic King after regaining his soul. Yes, he no longer has the power of Zarathos, however, he still has the power cosmic from Galactus. There really isn't any time to celebrate, however, as Mephisto soon arrives and points out that Frank getting his soul back violates their contract. Still, if Frank wants his soul so badly, Mephisto could just take another soul back to hell, like, say, Cammy's?
Obviously, if you really know Mephisto for much of anything, it's for the infamous Spider-Man storyline One More Day that saw the heroic wall crawler sell his marriage to Mary Jane Watson in order to save Aunt May's life. The storyline was much derided by a lot of fans as Spider-Man, a hero, made a deal with the devil. And yet, while Mephisto is a devil in the Marvel Universe, there's actually several devils. You have Nestir, Satan, Lilith, Mephisto's own son Blackheart, that each also seem to have their own little fiefdom in hell. So, again, Mephisto is a devil, but not necessarily the devil. So, it does seem to fall into a very unique little category. Up until just recently, that is, as around the time this book was published, Mephisto had actually lost control of his section of hell to, of all people, Johnny Blaze, the Ghost Rider.
Frank leaps into Mephisto's portal in pursuit, which, since he no longer has the powers of Rathos, means he begins burning up. That being said, because he still has the power cosmic from Galactus, he can just mow his way through Mephisto's minions. As Frank makes his way towards the devil, Mephisto explains that he really doesn't have too much leverage in keeping Cammy. However, he has a special room of loopholes for her, which he tosses her inside.
I wonder if that's also where he keeps Spider-Man's marriage.
Frank soon comes in, crashing on a horse that he got from somewhere, and Mephisto reveals the truth. Since Cammy is innocent, he can't actually keep her soul, and the Room of Loopholes is actually just a way out of hell, or Las Vegas, I'm still not entirely sure. That being said, he can't bring her back to life without a price. So Frank sells his soul and once again becomes the Cosmic Ghost Rider, and he's able to greet Cammy when she's revived on Squall. But there's a catch, and Frank knows it. While the two are embracing, the demonic parasite begins to resurrect itself and go after Cammy. There's nothing that Frank can do, as it turns out that Cammy was actually fated to die and become the new host for this creature. All he can do is apologize, as another innocent life is lost. Months later, the Brood invade Squall, and it turns out that they too are susceptible to the penance stare as they find the skull of the Cosmic Ghost Rider. Soon the stars are filled with the flames of vengeance once more.
As best as I can tell, this is Cammy's last appearance, so she's either dead or she's eventually going to come back, probably wearing way too revealing an outfit for someone whose age I have yet to truly determine. Kind of a downer ending, huh? Anyway, that concludes our look at Revenge of the Cosmic Ghost Rider. How was it? On the plus side, I do think this story really utilizes the dark humor very well. This does give a personality to the Punisher, or Frank Castle, or the Ghost Rider, whatever you want to call him, that is minus in his main Marvel Universe incarnation, whether, again, the Ghost Rider or the Punisher. So, yeah, it's very entertaining in that aspect, and I like a lot of the character banter between Frank Castle and Cammy. I think they actually make a really good team. It's too bad it's cut so short. I think this is a couple with some very nice artwork, and it's nice and briskly paced, so it's a quick read. It's not going to involve you in too much, so at least it has that going for it. On the downside, again, I gotta dwell on this, the shower scene with Cammy. Again, a character who I'm pretty sure is not 18. I harped on this in my Kitty Pryde Wolverine series. If you remember way back when I covered the Stephanie Brown Batgirl series, there was a shower scene there that I kind of harped on. Again, like, at least in the latter of those, Stephanie was in college, so maybe you could argue she was 18. But, again, it's like, and I know there's no nudity. They didn't go that far, but it's one of those things like, maybe don't play that up with, again, a character whose age I cannot quite determine. Also, again, while the scene between 616 Frank Castle and the Cosmic Ghost Rider is pretty cool, it doesn't really add much to the storyline. I think they were trying to draw a parallel to the idea of, Frank not caring for other people, and it kind of coming back around with what happened to Cammy. But like I said, it feels very superfluous. Maybe it would have been cool, like as an opening vignette rather than the ending of the first issue. Again, that's kind of where it just really didn't belong, I think, for what they were trying to go for. But overall, this isn't a terrible series, and if you are interested in the Cosmic Ghost Rider, it is a pretty decent jumping on point. There's a nice introduction at the beginning of the book to explain the setup a bit more than, say, having to look up an issue of Thanos or a Marvel event comic that you maybe aren't going to be entirely suited for. So again, it does serve as a pretty decent little jumping on point. Not a great one, but if you jumped on here, you would at least understand most of what's going on. So I am going to give Revenge of the Cosmic Ghost Rider a C. Like I said, if you're interested, you're probably going to be good with this. But again, I don't know if I could necessarily recommend it to even most interested. Only if you were really interested, would I recommend getting is basically what I'm trying to say there. Anyway, let's see what we'll be doing next time on the Random Trade Review.
Hey guys, remember you can support my work at patreon.com/CP Time for Cat Productions, where you can even request a trade to be put in the randomizer, aka the cardboard box. Also, remember to like, comment, share, subscribe, and ring that notification bell so that you can be notified for further videos.